In her previous life, Yan Yu always kept herself chaste and self-respecting. She had been in a romantic relationship with her boyfriend Zhu Yang for several years and never had any excessive intimate contact with him. However, after going to an indoor swimming pool once with her best friend Chen Ran, her menstruation suddenly stopped for half a month without any reason. After taking a pregnancy test, two bright red lines appeared on the test stick, and she became pregnant unexpectedly with an unknown child in her belly. She was extremely flustered and confused, having no idea who the biological father of the fetus was. Her first thought was to have an abortion quietly and get rid of this unexpected disaster completely. At that time, Zhu Yang suddenly changed his usual indifferent attitude, treated her with extreme tenderness and consideration, and persuaded her day and night by her side. He repeatedly told her that her endometrium was too thin and she would never be able to conceive a child for a lifetime if she had an abortion. He vowed to stay with her for the rest of his life, never care about the child's real origin, and was willing to be a responsible substitute husband. He promised to marry her openly and raise the child together with her wholeheartedly. Naive and simple, Yan Yu was completely deceived by this false deep affection. She gave up the idea of abortion, ignored all the pointing and criticism from people around her, and resolutely suspended her studies to wait for the delivery at home. During her pregnancy, she worked diligently and humbly, feeling grateful from the bottom of her heart for Zhu Yang's tolerance and redemption, and never guarded against him at all. But the moment she gave birth to the child, she lay weakly in the delivery room, not even having the chance to take a look at her newborn baby. Zhu Yang suddenly tore off his hypocritical mask, covered her mouth and nose tightly with a pillow, and pressed his whole body heavily on her frail body. He cursed her frantically, saying that he had never been willing to be a humble substitute father. He had long hated her and the unknown child in her belly. He had endured for 10 months only to wait for her to give birth to the baby before killing her cruelly to vent his anger. Having just gone through the pain of childbirth, Yan Yu had no strength to resist. In the end, she was smothered to death in the cold delivery room, dying with endless regret and grievance. Until her last breath, she failed to find out the truth about the child's life experience, nor expose the vicious masks of the wolves around her. Overwhelmed by deep resentment, her soul rebirthed in travel back in time, freezing accurately at the moment when she just found out she was pregnant and was at a loss what to do. After the rebirth, Yan Yu got rid of all her weakness and innocence. She only had two obsessions in her heart: to thoroughly investigate the hidden origin of the child in her belly, to outwit and tear up all hypocritical villains step by step, and never repeat the tragic fate of dying miserably in her previous life. Inside the bathroom, she held the dazzling pregnancy test stick tightly in her palm, and the cold chill of being suffocated to death in her previous life spread to all her limbs. Outside the door, her best friend Chen Ran kept knocking on the door, urging and probing constantly. Her tone was full of concern on the surface, but filled with calculation and prying curiosity inside. Yan Yu calmed down all her emotions in an instant, quickly hid the pregnancy test stick, opened the door and directly denied being pregnant. She said firmly that she had no private sexual life at all and could never be pregnant. She fooled Chen Ran perfectly without leaving any doubts. She remembered clearly that in her previous life, it was Chen Ran, who was talkative and full of selfish motives, who leaked her private matter of unwed pregnancy to everyone at the first time. The news spread widely among neighbors and relatives, pushing her into a whirlpool of public opinion and making her passively manipulated and coerced by Zhu Yang. In this life, she kept the secret strictly and guarded against the two closest people around her silently. Chen Ran pretended to be regretful and casually mentioned that Zhu Yang was preparing to propose to her recently. She persuaded Yan Yu to take the opportunity to get married and keep the child, achieving double happiness in life. Every word sounded considerate, but every sentence hidden a knife. Yan Yu perfunctorily agreed on the surface, then calmed down to review all her travel tracks and check every possible opportunity of conception one by one. She confirmed that after her last menstruation, she only went shopping in supermarkets with Zhu Yang twice, without any intimate contact beyond holding hands and kissing. The child could never be her boyfriend's. As for her best friend, who was also a female, there was no possibility of conception at all. The only doubtful point all fell on the trip to the public swimming pool a month ago. On that day, she was harassed vulgarly and closely by a strange lewd man in the swimming pool. Chen Ran stood up and shouted angrily to drive the man away in public. After the incident, she was in a bad mood and refused to take a public bath. She waited for her best friend alone in the clothes locker room and fell into a deep sleep unconsciously. When she woke up, her whole body was sore and weak. At that time, she only thought it was fatigue caused by swimming, but now all the details were full of flaws. She was most likely secretly harmed and violated at that time. An ominous premonition weighed heavily on her heart. Yan Yu went to the hospital alone without hesitation. She urgently took a pregnancy test to confirm the gestational age, had a complete gynecological physical examination, and screened for hidden infectious diseases. She not only locked the timeline of conception, but also retained physical evidence to track down the real culprit in secret. The B ultrasound result came out soon, showing that the fetus was 4 weeks old, which was completely consistent with the day of the swimming pool incident, confirming the exact time of conception. The doctor asked whether she planned to keep the child. Yan Yu made an appointment for an abortion operation without the slightest hesitation. She made up her mind never to keep this child wrapped in conspiracies and with an unknown origin. A medical staff whispered inside that young girls did not cherish themselves. Yan Yu was full of grievances but had no way to refute, unable to explain that she became pregnant in a daze and had no control over herself. However, the subsequent special gynecological examination brought a huge unexpected surprise. Her hymen was completely intact, and there was no trace of external damage on her body surface. The doctor comforted her that this situation was rare but reasonable, mostly caused by the special physiological characteristics of the perpetrator. Yan Yu suddenly fell into a desperate situation. A month had passed since the incident. The swimming pool was crowded with people every day. There were blind spots in the monitoring with no clues left, and all traces were completely cleared. It was almost impossible to investigate the culprit and trace the source. When her thoughts were in a mess, multiple missed calls popped up on her mobile phone. Call from Chen Ran and Zhu Yang. After answering the call, Zhu Yang's voice was gentle and anxious, asking about her whereabouts and physical condition with every sentence. Although his words were warm, his eyes hid vicious coldness. Yan Yu instantly recalled the scene of dying in the delivery room and suddenly suspected that Zhu Yang insisted on being a substitute father and refused to let her abort the fetus, which meant there was a secret hidden connection between the child and him. She pretended to be vulnerable and shed tears, confessing the truth of her pregnancy. Chen Ran rushed to the hospital to accompany her immediately, then planned to summon Zhu Yang to matchmake their marriage. Repeating the coercion routine of her previous life, Yan Yu stopped her in time, whispering that the child was not Zhu Yang's and insisting on an abortion to cut off future troubles. After being stunned, Chen Ran pretended to stand by her unconditionally, acting as a sincere best friend for 10 years while hiding ulterior selfish motives. On the next day before the abortion operation, Zhu Yang ran over to stop her in a panic. He swore affectionately in public that he would never care about the child's origin or fear gossip. He was willing to get engaged and marry her immediately, protect her for the rest of her life, and raise someone else's child wholeheartedly forever. Passers-by and medical staff around all praised him as a perfect good man. Only Yan Yu saw through his disguise coldly. When someone teased him as a substitute father, a trace of gloomy disgust flashed in Zhu Yang's eyes in an instant, and his disguise almost collapsed. Yan Yu sneered and broke off the relationship on the spot, firmly refusing the forced marriage, stating that she would control her own private affairs and never be manipulated by others. She turned around and left after breaking free from the entanglement, determined to dig out all the hidden truths. She reviewed Zhu Yang's past behaviors. He had invited her to open a room several times before, but behaved peacefully and dormant after being firmly rejected every time. there were many hidden secrets under his normal appearance. To collect evidence and trace the source, she paid the swimming pool security guards out of her own pocket to obtain all the monitoring videos from a month ago. No strange lewd man from that day was found in the first round of investigation, and the clue was almost broken. In despair, a casual joke from Chen Ren about accidental pregnancy in swimming pools reminded her. She knew clearly that sperm would die quickly in disinfected water, making pregnancy impossible, but she restarted the investigation, focusing on the tracks of acquaintances. When watching the monitoring frame by frame for the second time, the person who masked his face, wandered sneakily by the swimming pool and sneaked into the private toilet was undoubtedly her boyfriend Zhu Yang. With ironclad evidence in hand, Yan Yu confirmed that he was deeply involved in the case. Before she could confront him and collect evidence, the door of her house was kicked open violently. Her parents rushed in angrily, with Zhu Yang following closely to fan the flames. Her father slapped her in public, scolding her for disgracing the family by being pregnant before marriage, ordering her to drop out of school immediately and get married hastily to cover up the scandal. Her mother cried and kidnapped her with morality, forcing her to accept her fate and marry Zhu Yang. Zhu Yang pretended to mediate and persuade, comforting the elders with miserable affectionate words, taking all public criticism on himself, controlling the psychology of the whole family, and repeating the forced marriage trap of the previous life. Yan Yu was extremely disappointed and heartbroken. She fought back in public to break the deadlock, pointing out directly that Zhu Yang suffered from impotence and had no fertility. The whole audience was shocked instantly. Zhu Yang lost all face and was furious with no way to refute. Yan Yu took the opportunity to officially break up, preferring to marry the child's biological father rather than the despicable Zhu Yang. Zhu Yang flew into a rage and forced her to reveal the child's identity. At the moment of stalemate, Yan Yu caught sight of the customized couple ring on Chen Ran's finger. It was the exclusive ring engraved with the initials of both their names that she had given to Zhu Yang. But now it was worn on her best friend's hand all year round.